Hello everybody, and welcome to another reaction video. Today I'm going to be talking about the third week of the NFL season. Has just finished as of 2 days ago, and I'm going to be talking about it. All games, all whatever happened, all the fun stuff that happened, and I'm going to give my thoughts on all of it. So without further ado, let's get into it. First game of week 3 was between the Carolina Panthers and the Houston Texans. Tyrod Taylor was injured last week in their loss to the Cleveland Browns, and Davis Mills came in and had a decent game as his first NFL start. Sam Darnold was great, had another rushing touchdown on the year, and all around the team was very, very good. They easily beat Houston in Houston, and the Panthers are 3-0 for the first time in over 6 years since their 2015 season when they went 15-1 and made it to the Super Bowl. Fun fact, found this out a few days ago. The last two times the Panthers won 3-0 to start the season, they made it to the Super Bowl. So, you never know, it may happen again. Probably not, because Sam Darnold isn't a Super Bowl champion or contender at all. This team isn't a contender at all. So, you never know. Maybe some miracle will happen and they make it to the Super Bowl, but I don't think so. First Sunday game I'm going to be talking about is between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City was upset in Arrowhead and unfortunately lost their second game of the season, this time to the LA Chargers. The Chargers came out with a big lead against the Chiefs and almost blew it, although just barely beating them out and winning by 6 points. They ended up scoring a touchdown late in the game when they could have just kneeled the ball and gone for a game-winning field goal. They instead decided to go for a touchdown and then missed the extra point, making it a 6-point game, 30-24. And the Chiefs couldn't get that final Hail Mary type play, and they ended up losing, and now are 1-2 on the season for the first time in over 6 years. Yeah, 2014 or 2015. One of those years. Wasn't a good year for them. They ended up finishing 2-14 that year, and all around not a good season. So let's hope this season will be different and they're going to get back on track in the next few weeks. Cardinals and Jaguars, this game was pretty unenjoyable as a Seahawks fan, as the Cardinals ended up winning and are undefeated, 3-0 on the season. A great game to watch if you're a Cardinals fan, not a great game for if you're a Jacksonville fan. Trevor Lawrence did not play well. He had another 2 interceptions. I think he has about 5 or 6 on the season. Not good at all for a rookie quarterback to have 6 interceptions in 3 weeks. And unfortunately they lost. One pretty fun, interesting stat was the kicker for the Cardinals, Matt Prater, decided to try and attempt a record 68-yard field goal and missed it by a few yards, and instead Jamal Agnew, the Jags returner and also running back, decided to run it back from 109 yards and ended up scoring a touchdown. So we go from one attempted NFL record to an actual NFL record, from the longest kick to the longest kick return in history, which was a pretty fun, interesting stat that if you wanted to know, now you get to know. Bears and Browns. Bears did not play well against the Browns this game. The Browns easily won, without a doubt. They were great. They were able to bounce back with 2 straight wins after their first week 1 loss to the Chiefs, and the Bears did not play well. Unfortunate for them. Justin Fields was a starter since Andy Dalton is injured, and Justin Fields wasn't that good. He was unfortunately sacked several times and did not end well for him. Washington versus Buffalo. This game was all around Buffalo. They absolutely destroyed Washington in the first quarter and a half, and then Washington slightly came back down 21-0 and were able to score 14 unanswered points. And then the Bills decided to actually show up and ended up scoring another 20 points, and then they ended up winning 41-21 in their second game at home. Tough game for Washington. Their defense did not play well. Unfortunately, they had no sacks in the game and only one turnover, which is really, really unfortunate. Colts, Titans. The Titans easily beat the Colts. The Colts have Carson Wentz injured, and Jacob Eason was the starter. So let's be honest, who's going to win this game? Titans came off a huge win against my Seattle Seahawks, and they were able to keep the train rolling and easily beat the Colts. And now the Colts are 0-3, which is not the start that they wanted, and the Titans are back with a over 500 record. New Orleans Saints versus New England Patriots. The last time the Saints played in Foxborough, it was a crazy game that ended with a Tom Brady game winner to one of his many receivers he's played with, and Tom Brady was able to throw a game-winning pass. This time the Patriots did not win, and the Saints were easily came out with the victory, and unfortunately for them, one of their running backs, James White, was injured, and that did cost them their win. Mac Jones was pretty good. Jameis Winston was okay, and the Saints ended up winning, and now they have 2 wins on the season. Falcons versus Giants, Eli Manning Day in New York, and the Falcons were able to spoil it with a big win to keep their season afloat somewhat, and they were able to win their first game of the season, while the Giants slip to 0-3 for the first time since last year. Bengals versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had a huge win against the Bills and unfortunately had an upsetting loss to the Raiders last week, and the Bengals have had 1 win in both the same amount of time. They're 1-1. They had a huge win in week 1 against the Vikings and unfortunately lost last week to the Bears. But this game was different. They were able to upset their division rival Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh, and they were able to win comfortably against Ben Roethlisberger and this Pittsburgh Steelers team. Ravens and Lions, as I mentioned earlier, Matt Prater attempted the longest field goal in NFL history with a 68-yarder, which was just short of the crossbar. But unfortunately, that record was now broken with this kick by Justin Tucker. The Ravens were down 1 point and had only 1 shot to go. They had 1 kick from 66 yards out and were able to drill it off the crossbar and through. And Justin Tucker now holds the record for the longest kick in NFL history. And on top of it, it's a little unfortunate for Lions fans as they actually had a delay of game penalty that should have been called but was not called. And the Lions could have ended up winning the game if that had been called, but it wasn't, and it set up the Ravens for a huge win. Jets vs. Broncos, this game was pretty much as boring as anything. Broncos ended up winning, and it was pretty easy. Zach Wilson not have a good game. Teddy Bridgewater had a decent game. All around, the Broncos have a pretty underwhelming team, and they're winning against terrible opponents, which doesn't mean anything, because if you're playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets, you're supposed to win. If you also play against the New York Giants, you're supposed to win. So, unless you're the Seahawks, you'll win against the Giants. But they ended up winning again. 3-0 for the Broncos, a soft 3-0, not a real one. And they're able to keep their winning streak alive. Raiders vs. Dolphins, this was a great game. Jacoby Brissett comes in for Tua after him getting injured last week, and he put on a show. He was able to keep up with this tough Raiders offense, and the Raiders just came out with the victory with a 31-28 win in overtime, which both teams exchanged field goals, and the Raiders drove down the field to get 1 final field goal and win the game. Dolphins again kept pace. They were able to score a touchdown late in the game with 0 seconds on the clock and get the 2-point conversion, and were able to tie the game up going in overtime, and unfortunately lost. But great game for the Dolphins. Raiders get their revenge on Miami, and now the Raiders are 3-0 for the first time in a while, and this team may be a tough team to beat. Bucks vs. Rams, this was the highlighted game coming into week 3, and unfortunately for my Seahawks, the Bucks ended up losing. Tom Brady could not beat the Rams for the 2nd straight year, and the Rams beat them in SoFi Stadium, and it was actually pretty convincing. Bucks had a pretty huge deficit going into the half, and unfortunately they were never able to call out of it, which is really unfortunate for this Bucks team, but you never know. The Bucks had a great offense. The Rams had an even better offense, and the Rams defense was able to keep them out of the end zone more. And ultimately, this team is clicking. It's been 3 weeks into the season, but this team has been clicking. They've been hot against good teams, and the Rams will now technically have a pretty convincing lead on their division. As yes, the Cardinals are 3-0, or 3-0, but the Cardinals did play the Jaguars, and the Rams did play 3 teams that are pretty good, except for the Bears, because the Bears aren't that good. But still, great game, and the Rams are able to win and keep their streak alive. Seahawks versus Vikings. This game was, in all words that can describe it effectively, disappointing, mediocre, abominable, and absolutely disgusting. I don't know if I said disgusting before, but not a good game to watch. If you're a Hawks fan like me, not a good game. Scored on the first drive, couldn't do anything after that. Scored on the first drive, Vikings answer to make it 7-7. Seahawks get a touchdown late in the second quarter, and then the Vikings decide to score a bunch of points right on top of each other, 20 unanswered points, and then the Seahawks get a field goal to make it 27-17, and then the Vikings end up scoring 10 more points for good measure and ended up beating the Hawks 37-17, and it was not a good game to watch. Defense, non-existent. Offense, can't do anything in the second half, and unfortunately that costed them, and they were lost their second game of the season, which is so unfortunate, and the Vikings get their first win of the season. Packers 49ers. The Packers win off a game-winning field goal in the final 5 seconds, as the 49ers almost come away with a victory with a huge 10-point deficit in the first half, and they were able to come back and almost beat Aaron Rodgers' Packers. But of course, it's Aaron Rodgers. He always plays well in these crunch times with a minute to go, and he ends up winning with Mason Crosby kicking the game-winning field goal. Packers are now back on track. They played well against a really good team, and the 49ers are now 2-1 and aren't undefeated like 2 of their 3 rivals. Eagles Cowboys, the final game of week 3. This game was all around Cowboys. The Eagles did not play well. They were destroyed. 41 points for the Cowboys, 21 points for the Eagles. 7 of that was in garbage time, and unfortunately for the Eagles, they are 1-2. They did not have a good game. This was an awful game for them. Jalen Hurts was okay, but he did have a pick 6 to start the second half. All around, a pretty good game for the Cowboys against a pretty bad team. It is what it is. They did not play well, and Cowboys got the win. They were easily able to win, and that is pretty much it. Yeah. Already this week has been a crazy week, especially for my team. A contender is 1-2 against 2 teams that we had leads against and blew them. Yes. Great game, guys. Great game. Anyways, it was a interesting week. On to week 4 now. Tomorrow we have a pretty boring game between the Jaguars and the Bengals. Who will throw more interceptions, Joe Burrow or Trevor Lawrence? Pick your bets. But week 4 is coming up soon. Another week to do a review on. But hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you want. And I'm going to see you in the next one. That's about it. See ya.